Sweet, and I am recording. What is up, world? John Shoot here with another Puff Creative podcast. Today, I have the pleasure of being here with the Distru COO, Azam Khan. Azam, how you doing?
Doing well, John. Thank you. How are you doing?
Doing well. And Jesse McElvain, how are you doing?
What's up, man? Good to see you guys as well. I'm excited to chat.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining me today. A big part of my podcast is kind of pulling the personal stories from folks in the cannabis industry. We find it really unique just how different everyone's story is. And I totally want to pull both your stories and then eventually dive into Distru, which is a no bullshit seed to sale software for cannabis and manufacturers and distributors in the industry. So without further ado, Jesse, we'll start with you. I would like to know, where are you from and when did cannabis first enter your life?
So I'm from North Shore of Boston, small town, Hamilton, Mass, kind of like beach town type of thing. Cannabis first entered my life like 13, 14 or so, probably, classic kind of entry position. A lot of people, heard about it, then eventually like found yourselves in the wood next to the park or something like that, smoking a bowl and then feeling those little weighted feelings pulling you back a little bit and giggly and then run around playing soccer and doing dumb stuff with my friends for the next probably like 6 years.
And I'm assuming you're still a consumer. Did you like realize like early on, like that, like at that age, like, the possibilities or, even think that you'd be like in the industry in the way you are now?
Not at all, man. Like sometimes I think about that actually too. I think like having that conversation with 15-year-old myself and just blowing his mind, just being like, yeah, this is what you do every day. You're gonna wake up and someone's gonna ask you questions. You're gonna be like talking about green crack on a daily basis. You're like stuff like that. Stuff like what the so yeah, no, but I think I look at it as a privilege for sure, especially like, coming from like, running from cops and stuff like that. Obviously people have probably more serious, interactions with law and stuff like that than I have had, but it's still just like, we have the chance to do something that's more than just a job. A lot of people show their jobs and leave, but like our impact is going to last for like the rest of the time, like if as legalization grows, we see Mexico following now, going international and stuff like that, we're a part of a community that's changing the world right now.
Yeah, I totally agree. You guys are a huge part of it too, and that's why I'm really kind of excited to dive into your program and your platform. But first, Azam or Azam, I'm messing this up.
You are.
Yeah.
No worries. No worries.
Where,
I've been marginalized long enough, but I've accepted it.
Man, I'm such a piece of shit. Tell us about where you're from and similar to Jesse, like when did cannabis enter your life?
Yeah, I'm a Bay Area native. Obviously, grew up in the international arena, but moved here when I was young. I've been obviously known about the plant for many years, and I've had friends who used to engage in commerce related to cannabis. I was more of an observer. Wasn't really involved in anything as such. But once I went to college, graduated Santa Barbara, was really sort of introduced to new ideas and concepts around sustainability, things like that. I was a bio major, but I never really started. I was also pre-med, but I never stuck with that route. And eventually, found myself like really excited by like entrepreneurship in general, and specifically like the web. There was a lot of interesting startups coming out, and I was, young and dumb, just trying to dabble and trying to understand things, but my mind was everywhere. Then eventually, I just stayed involved in that, kind of got into the casual mobile gaming space, which is super interesting. And, from that, I really appreciated the power of like a small concentrated community. So eventually I got out of that as well and did some other things, random consulting, things like that. Then eventually, like one of my friends was building a pre-roll rolling machine, like a centrifugal device that spins really fast and would pack pre-rolls. So I started helping him research it. He was taking too long to build it. I was like, bro, I don't know what you're doing. Like, there's stuff happening in this space. I think, I mean, you need to get something done. So I started researching, and then I found this Slack community called Canna Slack. And then and I was just like, okay, well, I think I want to do what I did in the gaming space and just get involved in a community, because the cannabis community was also kind of concentrated in Northern California.
When was this, would you say?
2016.
Oh, nice. That's like right around when I got in 2015, 16.
Mid 2016 around.
So when you just circle back really quick, when you say you came to the States, did you end up in California and then ended up going to school there, or?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, nice. Okay. So we're in 2016, and you get involved into this cannabis Slack channel, and that kind of got your mind.
Yeah, and then I was going to some conferences. I went to some, like there was Elevate conference, stuff like that. Yeah, and then I think I met Blaine, and then I also connected with him online. And I was just like, hey, what are you up? I was like, hey, I want to help you with this group. He's like, sure. And then I was like, what are you up to? And then he, told me a little bit about that. He's making like a CRM for the cannabis space. I'm like, cool, I know a little bit about that. Connected with him. Next thing you know, like I'm going over his house, spending days and just jamming out on website copy, started making calls, and yeah, I got right into it. And that's around the time, and he'd already met Johnny, our other co-founder, the CTO, around that time as well. He met him on an Elixir Slack community. So our
interesting.
Our web app is coded in Elixir as a language. I mean, obviously Elixir and React and PostgreSQL, and there's like this stack that we use, but it's not like Node.js. It's different than that. But yeah, so anyway, this Elixir community's niche, so that's how they met, and then we just kind of came together, and yeah, the rest is
history. Interesting. So you were involved in Distru just right from the start then.
Yeah, I'm one of the co-founders. So I was just definitely in the mix for since the get-go. I mean, Blaine kind of obviously originally conceived of the concept. Yeah, he was the one researching, and he was already coming from another startup too, where he was doing something around in the festival space. But
nice.
Yeah, then he sort of kind of caught wind of the cannabis industry, and he was targeting cannabis distributors, which is like an underserved segment. So in that time, most software at the time was like POS software, right? Point of sale software. So in California, there's a lot of Prop 215 companies that were sort of operating loosely, like these medical companies. This is obviously before adult use was passed in California.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And so there's a lot of dispensaries, and so it was definitely like old school cultivation software in the mix, you could say, maybe like ERPs and stuff, but the companies just weren't that big to be using those, except some of obviously the bigger operators who might have been using like Meridian Science and these kind of more old school MJ Freeway, BioTrack, software like that. But then there was a new breed of point of sale companies that started coming, like Trees, and obviously Greenbits was around, FlowHub, and these kinds of companies came into the mix. But we were targeting the distributor segment, which is unique to California, right? Because there was really and this is before a distribution license type was even created. And obviously there's certain regulations that passed and enabled self-distribution, which was in our favor. But we started talking to distributors in California around that time, and pitching them our software. And it was really anyone who had a team of sales team. They were buying and selling from other brands, or they had their own brand. A lot of the distributors actually there's some that grew up and some that ceased to be, but lots changed since then.
Yeah,
we've come a long way. Yeah.
And Jesse, when did you first join the Distru team?
So I joined, I was the 9th member of the team, I believe. But I was like that first round of post-founder hires.
Oh, wow.
So they raised their seed round in March, I believe, not of 2000, what year is it? 2019 was that? 2 years ago or so. And then I joined the team that July, so like 4 months after, they had that initial funding, and joined in on just in sales, and again, especially being a 9-person company, there's not really roles. It's just we need to move forward, and we need to all the dials as much as possible, and so everyone was just kind of pushing, and since then it's grown, and some more processes have gotten in place and some more, some growth happening, which is exciting.
Nice. That's awesome. So, and this goes to either one of you. What's, if you could give me maybe a just higher level of what Distru is, and a little bit about the platform and some of the unique integrations that you have. I noticed that the Metrc integration, there's a QuickBooks integration. I saw you guys work with LeafLink too. Those guys are legends. So if you give us just a high level overview, and we'll just dive into a little bit deeper into the program as well.
Yeah. So we are, as for like I was said, started distribution, but we're really a distribution and manufacturing software. Manufacturing by kind of ability. So in, if we go license say processing and transportation, depending on the state, wholesale licenses in Oregon. But pretty much that, anyone that's taking in bulk flower, transforming it into something, into a product, and then selling it to retailers. That's our people. Areas we shine are definitely around our Metrc integration. I think we saw that coming out, and we took it really seriously. We kind of really put our heads down, locked ourselves in the room, and built something that's really pretty special. And I think our customers will echo that our Metrc integration is something that not everyone else has out there. So we really kind of thought through more than just, okay, do the system communicate, but like, what are your actual flows? Words that get tossed around at our company bunch is customer obsession. And really not only just like, don't even listen to them, but be obsessed with them. Like how tight are those shelving units in their distribution warehouse? Like, can they be on a laptop? Do they have to be on mobile phone? Like really getting to know these people as best as possible. And so we can empathize with what they're going through.
Customer obsession, you called it.
Yeah. Cause it's just, you can't really just guess in this industry right now, because everything's moving so fast. You need to know what's happening on the ground with these people's day to day, what actually sucks in their lives, and how can we fix that? And that's kind of the approach that we take to all the problems, is really get to know the customers, really get to know their flows, but also with our high level view of the industry, because we're talking to whatever 100 plus people about how they're doing things. We can see how the trend's going. So we're matching what their pain point is with the trend, and then building features to allow them to, really kind of expedite their processes, streamline their processes, and get ahead of things that they don't even see yet. Some of the bigger operators are dealing with, we're then educating the middle-sized operators around, like, how do you get ahead of these things? How do you streamline your flow? How do you set your SOPs? What mats do you buy so your knees don't go out while you're standing all day? Like anything. Like we're really about the customer first and foremost. I think that's one way that we shine. But from a software perspective, is that the manufacturing through distribution flow. And then we just added a analytics layer on top of that. So we do
really cool
advanced, business intelligence based on that, with, just harnessing all your data and really kind of just jamming out on what you want to see, what KPIs your company's trying to drive, and how can we track those, and how can we drive your success? Because, kind of going back, it's like we succeed through our customer success. That's just, there's no way, if and ands or buts about it. It's like, we need them to succeed, Yeah.
We
want them to.
For sure. Yeah, I think that's huge. You guys have, great customer relationship. You care about their personal concerns and problems. I mean, coming just from like cannabis marketing, we'll end up providing, it's the same contract type with two different clients, same exact deliverables, but what actually goes into making those deliverables come to life, and that process is always customized and different depending on like who they are, what they're dealing with on the day-to-day, what their goals are, what their headaches are, like you mentioned. I think that's huge, that's a focus of yours. So that's really impressive. So I tip my hat to you guys for making that a priority, especially when it comes to a software like yours. I think that on top of just the great technology, like, having that caring aspect is what makes all the difference. So I noticed that you're in a bunch of different states, which is awesome. Congratulations on that. And I know you're working, we're talking about how we can tackle newer states together, actually, which is really, really cool. For me personally, being in so many states, having staff in states, having clients, multiple states, it kind of creates its own set of unique problems. What would you say is like maybe the biggest hurdle for you guys in like the current climate of the cannabis industry and like what you're experiencing, if there is any?
Hmm. I mean, on my end, just go quickly, we can get Azam as well. I'm sure you just another list is, I mean, we're a fully remote team before COVID and all that stuff. And so one thing that I've thought is interesting that coming in, I've been taught by Azam and by other people, is like really thinking about like communication methods and like how do you transfer information remotely as effectively as possible. And so being in California, being in Oklahoma, these states, and really kind of driving that and getting those systems down, and everyone's educated on these states. We have tons of knowledge and tons of knowledge. But then as we go more and more states, there are different people from our company learning a lot about different places. And so really continue to focus on centralizing information internally. I think it is tough. Or I mean, it's not tough, but it's just a new obstacle to solve, because
Yeah.
one is like how taking the time to centralize that information, but then it's also making sure everyone has time to then read that information is bandwidth being obviously critical in any startup. Just being able to make sure everyone's as smart as everyone and everyone has that level of customer knowledge that we want to and that we've come accustomed to.
Yeah. Which can be a struggle for sure. Would you say you feel the same way? Or is there any other Azam?
Sorry, rephrase the question.
Just I mentioned, so I noticed that you're just in a lot of states. I was wondering if being in a lot of states, there's certain roadblocks or challenges that you face day to day, or just in general, like running a software technology company in the newest, fastest growing industry in the world. Anything that comes to mind at all?
Yeah, like the challenges around that.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, like what Jesse's saying is like, one is like knowing what's happening there and then figuring out how to prioritize those things. Like right now we are in this information gathering phase, which is like what's happening with this state, what are the operators like, how many licenses are being issued, what's the addressable market there, are there workflows something that like fit nicely into Distru, what do we need to change on our end to like cater to that state or to those operators. There's a lot more MSOs or small medium businesses, what's competition like. So I think there's definitely more to organize, and there's a lot of things because it's fast growing, it's a lot changing really quickly.
Yeah.
So that's definitely challenging, is like a constantly like updating the information, but you kind of eventually like achieve a certain point on parity of like a certain level of baseline knowledge that you can have about the state. And so I think we're getting there. And then yeah, what Jesse was saying was like disseminating that knowledge back out to or people. Now I think obviously like every team member needs different things, right? Like salespeople need to know different things, and so it's like it's hard to like tailor that information constantly. But I guess there's two groups. There's like the front facing and the back facing. The front end of the company and the back end. The front end should be aware of industry trends in a given state and national trends as well. Whereas like people on the back end or the product team, they're more of like, what's unique about the Metrc APIs and Metrc endpoint API endpoints in that particular state. What can you do? What can you not do? Things like that. So yeah, that's the only real, I would say, challenging part. But again, what's interesting is like, everyone is facing those challenges. So whoever's in this space, so it's like who can face those challenges better,
Yeah.
right? It's kind of like you're almost like not, you don't have to outrun the bear, you just have to outrun your competition.
For sure.
But the bear is there for everyone.
Yeah, totally. That's a really good way to put it. So we mentioned some the integrations that you have with your platform. Is there anything that you guys are really excited about that's coming up, or anything new that is differentiating you from some other of your competitors out there who might be in the same space?
I think top man.
I mean, I was just gonna say like, I mean, I don't know about new integration, but like the LeafLink integration is sort of like a newer integration, and just sort of, really working with their team closely to execute campaigns and things of that sort, I think is something that we're excited about. because I think, LeafLink has a lot of penetration in a lot of states. So I think just working more closely with them, having a really good integration, and really like making sure the user experience is good for the operators using it. Because that's really one of our key strengths, and people use us is for the user experience.
Yeah.
It's like for the end, we prioritize the end user as well, as opposed to like, some of the more clunkier software out there. So I think just, I think we're excited for that and seeing like where that takes us. Because I think we do need to, ultimately, like in the long term, you're going to see like more SAPs and these types of larger companies, enter. They're already there, right? Microsoft Dynamics, these kinds of ERP players.
Yeah.
And the market will over time slowly start to consolidate. But in the next 10 years, we have an opportunity to, do more interesting and unique things and move faster than those companies. And one part of that is like industry specific software integrations. So I think like this thing we do with LeafLink is very interesting, because it's not something that like another ERP would necessarily invest a lot of resources in. And even if they do, they couldn't make the user experience much more solidified, which is like, what is the connection between LeafLink to Distru? So right now it's like when an order comes into LeafLink, it'll get synced to Distru, and then you can handle everything you need to over there. And then Distru is then sending our available inventory, live inventory levels to LeafLink. So sales reps don't have to or like anyone from the team doesn't have to manually go and say, hey, you have this month of the gelato 8th available. Like Distru is a system of record of your inventory, which is verified against Metrc, which is the state track and trace system, as we talked about. Right. So we have to kind of look at it as what is the data that we have that's really good. And that's just like Salesforce is your system of record of your customer data.
Yeah.
Right. So our network effects and things like that we build are going to be based on of like that inventory information. We also have obviously order data as well. But LeafLink is going to have your order data as well, and then so will Distru. But really what we're providing is the system of record of inventory levels, which we then push to LeafLink. LeafLink has all the buyers out there. And so all the retail buyers can quickly shop from multiple brands from all in one purchase order, as opposed to creating separate purchase orders with each brand. And so just sending that portion of the PO to that brand into Distru, and then just letting them handle everything else that they need to. I think we're excited for what that holds.
Yeah, for sure. That's awesome. Yeah, and you're backing everything up with the analytics that you mentioned earlier too, which I think is huge.
Yeah. I say to take that a step further too. It's really like LeafLink is like part of, I think one way that we shine right now is our kind of, because we're distribution focused, like our abilities to enable sales teams and enable like the kind of like getting your final products to the retail stores, LeafLink being another component of that is big. And so like with this year, we're really focusing on manufacturing features as well, and really ramping up our different from label printing to different yield tracking things, and all these different type of like manufacturing type of focused features that will then be tapped into that already solidified sales enablement features. So it's really about like how can we maximize your revenue? I think we're initially
which is huge for these companies.
Yeah, because it's not just about oh, let's help you make your product, but once you have your product, we already have the tools, the best tools to allow you to sell that product as well and market that product and all those other things. So it's about the getting that revenue in the door for these companies, which can be really difficult to get noticed in this landscape.
100%. Yeah, some companies have the greatest branding and infrastructure grow in cannabis in the world and struggle every day because they just don't have the right system set up. So I think it's awesome that you guys are doing what you're doing, focusing on the data, focusing on that customer experience and customizing it for your customers, which I think is great. Well, guys, thanks so much. I really appreciate you walking our listeners through Distru and a little bit touching on your stories as well, because I think that's really important. I know folks can go to distru.com, distru.com to find more information about you. And also your Instagram is Distru app, @Distru app. Anywhere else that you'd like folks to find you, or are those kind of the main sources?
Yeah, those are the main sources. I would say always feel free to reach out to me too. If anyone's interested in just chatting or more information on Distru or whatever, Jesse, JESSE @distru.com.
Cool. Yeah, I'll definitely throw your email in.
And, there's so many interesting things going on. Like just having more conversations is important these days. And if we can help you out, that's great.
For sure. Yeah, I totally will plug your contact information into the podcast description as well. And yeah, I look forward to doing this again with you guys and collaborate more in the future. And again, thank you so much for your time, guys. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, John.
So you're ending the podcast now, right? Or we're hopping?